For 23
Good morning.
minutes ahead.
Good morning and welcome to VeteransTodayRadio.com. This is Mike Harris. Today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2015, and my guest today is Senior Editor of VeteransToday.com, Gordon Duff. Gordon, welcome and how are you?
Who the hell knows, Michael? You know, I'm 7 minutes older than I used to be and grouchier than ever. And no idea. People have no idea what that means, but you do. Lot of stuff going on. Apparently, a number of Republicans in the employ of Sheldon Adelson have contacted the government of Iran and said that they're in charge of the United States and not the actual elected government of the United States, which they don't represent. The Iranians have responded to this, pointing out that those people that have chosen to contact them, representing a political faction in the U.S., did so in contravention to international law. And toward the end, and that includes, I believe, 47 members of the Senate, led by, and I will call him a traitor, Rand Paul, but we have known this all along. We've known that he's been on the payroll of organized crime, that we deal with these people at some point. I recommend that for insurrection against the United States and treason, and those are the specific crimes, but in the process pick up while they're being collected the 5 Supreme Court justices that were involved in the 2000 coup d'etat. They be brought along as well. I see somebody's typing in here, and
That's okay.
On Skype.
Today. But Gordon, don't we have really what, by these 47 senators, don't we have a violation of the Logan Act?
Yes, we do. We do have such, and they frankly should be picked up. They're certainly they can certainly be removed from office now, and I would chastise President Obama for failing to have done that already. It is time that the Senate be
time to take the gloves off with these guys.
It's time the Senate be moved on by U.S. Marshals and these people be taken into custody. The Constitution, the laws of the United States requires the president to act. In the interim here, I am beginning a dialogue with the Russian government to help deal with some of these problems. And let me tell you what we're doing with our Russian friends here, which we need to get this public while you and I are still alive. We're requesting that Vladimir Putin, president of the Russian Federation, residing at 23 Yunka Street, Moscow, 103132, Russia, release files to us. And we and whoever is doing Skype chat things, just know that those little Skype chat blips are going out over the air, and perhaps there could be another way to communicate. You know.
Okay. Let's cool the SMS, except for when something desperate or an emergency like comes along. Okay.
Yeah,
folks?
it's nothing amusing. If you've got if for instance, nuclear missiles are heading here, and I should run to the basement. Yeah, I want that one because I've got to collect the cats, guinea pigs, my parakeet, the dog, and get downstairs. Anything less than that, yeah, we can probably let that go. We're going to be working on a list of materials. Initially, what we're asking for are transcripts and recordings, the actual live recordings of John McCain's 32 propaganda broadcasts made while he was a prisoner of war. We want the files on John McCain's debriefing by Russian intelligence while he was a prisoner of war. And specifically, the information that he gave on the placement of U.S. ships, the paths used by U.S. attack aircraft, and order of battle information, which included what we were told by Colonel Earl Holliman, led to the killing of at least 60 American pilots, and that we have sufficient information from the Russians to prosecute McCain for treason. Now, in addition, we would like the surveillance files that we know are available by Russian intelligence of visits by John McCain and then Senator Lieberman to Kabul and Islamabad, where we have reason to believe they were involved in high-level narcotics transactions. I'm asking those as well. We would like the files from President Putin to release the files of Russian agent Benjamin Netanyahu, who, while working for Russian intelligence in 1990, and I will give you the specifics right here because we do have access to this and more information. I will head into the file that I have from the U.S. Army. Thank you, by the way, for passing stuff on to me. And I'm weaving through a document right now, including a government memorandum here, and we go on.
I have a question while you're looking for this. Of the 60 pilots who were killed because of John McCain's treason to the United States, doesn't John McCain also face civil penalties from those families who lost their loved one?
Well, that's a process.
I know it is, but I want to see this guy asset stripped. I want to see these people compensated for the loss of their sons because of his dirty deed.
Well, let me start here more or less where the story here from U.S. intelligence files went. In 1990, Benjamin Netanyahu, along with other Israelis and one American, met at Fink's Bar, and that's a watering hole in Jerusalem that the Licudists hang out in. I will read you one statement here from what he had said. Now, this is from a recording of Benjamin Netanyahu done at Fink's Bar in 1990. We have available someone who had witnessed this. We have recording available. And I'm starting ... Okay. If we get caught, they will just replace us with persons of the same cloth. So it doesn't matter what you do. America is the golden cow, and we will suck it dry, chop it up, and sell it off piece by piece until there's nothing left but the world's largest welfare state that we will create and control. Why? Because it's God's will, and America is big enough to take the hit and survive, so we can do it again and again and again. This is what we do to countries we hate. Destroy them very slowly, and make the people suffer for refusing to be our slaves. That is a word-for-word quote from Benjamin Netanyahu. Exactly. What now? We can tell you what had happened, and some of the people involved. We have several of them on staff at Veterans Today, including the person who handled for the UN Treaty Oversight Organization. The cryptographer there was, at that time, 1990, was Jeff Smith, and head of U.S. intelligence inside Israel at that time was Colonel James Hankey. Both are editors at Veterans Today. What we have learned is that a group of Russian agents, Soviet agents, headed by Benjamin Netanyahu, an agent at that time of the KGB, had approached Canadian peacekeepers in the Golan Heights. And let me if I can pull up a specific document on this. Okay. And I don't always prepare for this. What I need is, I need Rush Limbaugh's staff. If you guys want to jump ship and work for nothing.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've got a great producer, but it sure would be nice to have a staff of 30 people working behind me to make sure I've got everything at my fingertips all the time.
What I know is that we'll say a conservative is likely to want. I don't want an 18 or an 8-year-old boy under the table here. Not one of my desires. I've got a cat down there somewhere, but no, I don't need that. Here's what was going on at the time. This is 1990, and this is the closest. 1990 is the closest we have come to a full-scale nuclear war. This is what was being planned. Canadian forces that were stationed in the Golan Heights, and we have a facility there that's a communications relay facility, supposedly UN peacekeepers. In actuality, it's an NSA fixed. Got 84 cryptic. Now, what we had from the names that I'm reading here, not just Pollard's name and Robert Hansen, but a guy named Tom Countryman is listed on here. So anyone knows who Tom Countryman is. We're supplying the daily crypto information. These Russian agents had which Benjamin Netanyahu led, had gotten 5 of these units, which allowed real-time access to all U.S. Navy, NATO, and U.S. State Department communications around the world. All of our most secret communications were being decrypted on a real-time basis. When he learned about this, President Bush 41, that's George Herbert Walker Bush, indicated that if there had been a nuclear war at the time, and we at the time came very close to this, the United States would have been defeated quickly and easily, and would have had a very limited to respond to what then would have been an overwhelmingly successful Soviet attack that was being pushed by extremists within the Kremlin, who, of course, only a few months later tried to overthrow Gorbachev's government, who were working very closely with oligarchs within Russia, with the Rothschild family, and with the Likud extremists, Sharon and Netanyahu in Israel.
Let me make one observation. The oligarchs in Russia, the Rothschild family, and Likud in Israel all have one thing in common. They're what Preston James and I now call the Khazarian Mafia. And Jeff Gates was the first guy to put me onto this, but this is a transnational, transgenerational crime syndicate that's out to destroy the world, take it over. That's and that's you just summarized their activities very, very well.
Well, we're asking the Russian government and President Putin to release the files that he has identifying Netanyahu as an espionage agent for Russia. Along with that, there were members of what we would call the neocon group, and or Project for a New American Century. Within that, additionally, the Russians are holding on to this information because they think it now has value, and I'm telling you that the expiration date for any of this is coming up very quickly. Those of you who may not have been aware, but General Breedlove, the military chief of NATO, an American general, went off the reservation a couple of days ago, like right out of Dr. Strangelove, and said that the Russians had sent entire armies into Ukraine and were moving on Kiev. He's absolutely lost. This man has lost his mind, but he is a nuclear commander. He has access to 230 nuclear weapons that are directly under his command, and we no longer have any trust that this guy isn't absolutely insane. Toward that end, the German government seems to accept my position on this as well. And in the publication Der Spiegel, and let me pull that one up here while I'm doing this. And if only we were on television. We've got to get a TV network going. We've got the bandwidth for it. And I will pull up.
Well, that's in the works. That's in the works. It's just your time and money are the two things that we require. So,
okay, and the article in Der Spiegel is Breedlove's Bellicosity. Berlin alarmed by aggressive NATO stance on Ukraine. And on the same day, General Philip Breedlove, top NATO commando in Europe, stepped before the press in Washington. Putin, the 59-year-old said, had once again upped the ante in eastern Ukraine with well over 1,000 combat vehicles, Russian combat forces, some of the most sophisticated air defense battalions and battalions of artillery, all having sent to down. Clear is that right now it's getting worse. And now only like go the German done. And first again the done. They didn't understand what Breedlove was talking about. And it wasn't for the first time. Again, the German government, supported by intelligence gathered by the BND, and that's the Bundesnachrichtendienst, excuse me for my bad German, Germany's foreign intelligence agency, didn't share the view of the NATO Supreme Commander of Europe. The pattern's become a familiar one. Breedlove has been commenting on Russian activities in eastern Ukraine, speaking of troop advances in the border, amassing of munitions and columns of tanks. Over and over again, Breedlove's numbers have been significantly higher than those in possession of America's NATO allies. As such, he's playing directly in the hands of the hardliners in Congress and NATO. Breedlove needs to be arrested. Calling on the President of the United States to have him arrested. We're calling on the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to have this person put in a lockdown psychiatric facility. We have a nuclear commander who, according to the German government, is dangerously insane.
Okay, well, what's preventing them from doing this to Breedlove? You know, and I want to come back to your earlier statement about the 47 senators, but let's focus on Breedlove. Why is this guy still walking the streets? What is stopping Obama, the DOJ, the Joint Chiefs, the Provost Marshal, anybody who's got any authority from picking this guy up and putting him in a psych ward?
Well, what I'm going to be asking for the Russians is this. I want their intelligence files on people that we know are involved in illegal activities. John McCain, Lieberman, Rand Paul initially, and then Jeb Bush. Now let's talk about this Bob Menendez resignation. Now, what we're told is this, and let me pull up some notes on this, which we got from research work, and some of this, the best work, of course, is done by, as is always the case, Jim W.D. You just
Jim is a pro. He's real good at what he does, and he does much more than just as managing editor than Veterans Today.
Yeah, it's and as we're all so delighted to point out, you just can't make stuff like that up. Now, the outgoing Attorney General, and we'll read the notes that we have here, and excuse me for doing this, which replaces me having to have a memory or get enough sleep. Outgoing Attorney General Eric Holder just announced the indictment of Senator Bob Menendez. Few understand what this implies or how Menendez is tied not only to Medicare fraud, but the 9/11 cover-up and a congressional pedophile ring that ties Jeb Bush to a list of crimes as long as your arm. This week, Bob Menendez of New Jersey is facing indictment for a number of crimes tied to his involvement with lifelong friend Dr. Solomon Melgen. Both are accused pedophiles. That's not hard to find out. Okay, Melgen is supposedly a Medicare cheat, and Menendez is said to have interfered with investigations against Melgen for this and tax evasion. The whole thing's a lie. And who Holder's really after at the, we'll call it the 12th hour, because we've been at the 12th hour for a while. The U.S. is pretty much screwed. There's a reason I sell guns. Holder's really after Jeb Bush. See, Melgen is a billionaire, and it's none of it is into with a few $1 million, $20 million worth of accused Medicare fraud. His real business partners, he has one active one and one silent one. His real one is cocaine cartel head Hank Asher. Melgen, Asher, and cocaine cartel head and former Florida governor Jeb Bush founded a company called Seisent, S-E-I-S-E-N-T, that developed Matrix software. Matrix software has been used for two known purposes. Matrix software is how the police organizations around the world hunt down pedophiles. Now, what's really great is that Matrix software was developed by a company run by pedophiles. Additionally, Matrix software is what led to the arrest of a very odd collection of people who we know had nothing to do, the 19 hijackers or the survivors. And we don't have to go into this. But Michael, the hijackers who died on 9/11, how many of them are still alive and suing the U.S. government for claiming that they're dead?
I think it's, 11?
Yeah, 11 of the 19 hijackers are still alive. And it's blocked in the American news, but have lawsuits against the U.S. Wait a minute, I'm not dead. I didn't crash anything in the World Trade Center. No kidding. The issue being here is that this organization that created this the software used to hunt down the hijackers, software that was developed to channel and limit the 9/11 investigation, is owned by Jeb Bush, Melgen, the guy who's indicted, and Bush is the silent partner, but Bush is very much a partner, and Hank Asher. Now look up Hank Asher. Any of you, just look him up. Hank Asher's lifelong best friend is Jeb Bush. Business partners at every turn, and Asher's primary business is cocaine. Melgen and Asher are both members of the Anti-Defamation League, of AIPAC, and the Simon Wiesenthal Center. Seisent, the company that they developed, is now owned by LexisNexis. They received nearly $1 billion in the sale. And of course, that indictment of Menendez is supposedly involves at $20 million. These guys wouldn't wipe their hind ends on $1,000 bills. Just a minor issue. So we know where this came from. This is a move against Jeb Bush, leverage against Bush. Now, the things we could talk about here, if we wanted to go into a broader painted conspiracy, is
please do.
The Bush family has decided to relocate itself to South America. In 1959, a movie starring Gregory Peck and Ava Gardner was made called On the Beach. Michael, are you familiar with it?
I am. It's a great movie. I love that movie, and I love the guy who goes out and buys the little race cars, driving it like all get out. It was just a good movie. It was about the end of the world.
Yeah, tell people what the movie's about.
Well, the movie was that this group in Australia is down there. They're out of the flow. There had been a nuclear world war. All of civilization everywhere else had been destroyed. Everywhere else. If I recall correctly, I think Gregory Peck was a submarine commander.
Yes.
who surfaced outside of this small town in Australia. And they were all that was left. Everybody else was, and they were waiting for the radiation to get to them so that they would also die. And that's what On the Beach was about.
Well, the Bush family is doing their own on the beach scenario. By all studies, there are only a few areas that will survive a massive nuclear war that includes the use of cobalt bombs. And you're like the only person I can ever do this to. Michael, tell the people what a cobalt bomb is.
The cobalt bomb is, imagine your best hydrogen bomb on steroids. It's got extreme levels of fallout and extremely high energetics when it comes to the explosion. It uses cobalt instead of hydrogen or uranium because the cobalt is a less dense metal. The molecular bonds are tighter, closer, and so it's harder to split apart. But once you split it apart, ooh-wee, watch out.
Yeah, the bombs are a hybrid made of cobalt and of gold. And the fallout will last longer. It is 1,000 times more severe than just uranium. When we talk about nuclear winter, it isn't. Well, the Bush family had, during the Bush presidency, Los Alamos National Laboratories was paid to do a study on what areas of the world would survive a nuclear war. One of the people who worked on the study is Dr. Stephen Jones, the renowned nuclear physicist and nuclear weapons designer. Professor Jones from, what university is he from now? Isn't that that one out in Salt Lake City? Brigham Young.
Brigham Young. Brigham Young, Brigham often.
Yeah, Brigham Young. And this study was, which cost around $6 or $7 million, not a lot, not the first unusual study, and a study that was not made public, except we do have access to all archives because the chief archivist at Los Alamos is one of our guys here. But this study indicates that the areas the Bush family has bought in South America, and they own hundreds of thousands of acres.
Paraguay in particular is where they're at.
The specific areas that they've purchased are the areas that will be the only areas, surface areas on Earth that will allow the survival of human life, because these are the only areas that will be free of radiation. The Bush family is planning on surviving the apocalypse. But not just that, not for the first time. Anybody that would prepare for the apocalypse, would they be planning to bring it on? Yeah, just maybe. Now I'm going to do an experiment here.
Okay.
And there's a lot of insider gossip stuff. Really, for those of you who don't get involved in VT, we're like a bunch of gossipy little girls here. You know, there's it's kind of fun actually. But Gordon's got his little feelings about that. I just never let go of Mitt Romney, who, although will say that when he decided to run this time, we closed the door on him very quickly. I have a couple of audio tapes, and I'm going to see if they can be two things I'm going to be doing and warning Michael about. Okay. We have a break coming up, by the way.
Well, we have a break coming up. We don't have a bottom of the hour break on the new format. We're going to have to install that because we need to have a bottom of the hour break.
Yeah, so we can sell commercials.
so we can sell commercials. That's
I want to sell some
to
phony cancer cures. I'm going to start.
No, we're not going to do any of that. We leave that to others. There's
water purification and phony cancer cures.
There are pros out there who make their living doing that, selling phony stuff. That ain't me. That ain't you, Gordon. Come on, don't.
I'm going to go after all of Alex Jones' sponsors. If it doesn't work and it's toxic or a joke, I don't want to be peddling it. and I'm going to put my name behind it.
Well, anyway, Gordon, while you're prepping this, give us what is your opinion of the state of the union of the United States right now? How are we doing as a country?
But this is I don't look at these things because it's just most people are, except for the Wall Street people, are on their third martini right now. The rest of us have had lunch, and you don't want to see it again necessarily. The Obama presidency is an extreme disappointment to me because Obama has failed to arrest 5 Supreme Court justices. He hasn't arrested, tried, and executed most of the Republican leadership. We watched this last week. This is where people just get so many things wrong. They tell me who George Soros is. Well, Soros and the Conqueror, no, they're total political enemies. People just, when you start repeating stuff that comes out of emails and you don't know where it comes from, if you don't know what you're talking about, and real information is available, we put it out there. Use our information, use that, and move with it. But don't just pass out lies and baloney. Nancy Pelosi came out after the Netanyahu talk as a national hero. All of it. Nancy Pelosi, she's a liberal, whatever. What she turned out to be was somebody who stood in the face of the mob and let them have it. Nancy Pelosi's a hero. Everybody that's been saying, well, Nancy Pelosi, well, they said that Nancy, who's they? Well, Nancy turned out to be okay. Obama, as we predicted, turned out to be okay. Biden turned out to be okay. And all of these other people turned out, as we clearly see now, are traitors. The Tea Party, every single member has turned out to be a traitor. Every single Tea Party member stood up and cheered when Netanyahu pissed on the United States, pissed on our flag. That's exactly what he did. Every one of them. I can't even tell you what I would do.
I absolutely agree with that. And I was on Press TV a week or so before that, and I said this is absolute disrespect, not just for the office of the presidency, not just for the Department of State, but for the American people. That Netanyahu is even coming. Why would we entertain a war criminal like Netanyahu to speak in front of our Congress?
So in the interim here, and Michael, what I want you to do is, this has questionable volume level, and we know how good our equipment is, but I am going to play.
I'm getting comments already from listeners about, can we up the main volume? So for the anybody who has
whoever's got that,
who's ever got that, if you could crank up the volume a little bit, that would be most helpful.
I'm going to try to play a low quality. This will be a low quality recording. This is an interview with me and an FBI official from prior to the 2012 elections. I'm going to turn off my microphone. I'm going to go onto this audio, and Michael's going to tell me if it is if he can't hear it, because I'll hear Mike, but Michael can't hear me.
I will do that.
Okay, and toward this end, I'm going to go off right now and start in, let's say, 15 seconds with this audio, and toward that, and we're pretty mechanical things. I wouldn't trust me to do that, and I'm going to click off. Yeah.
Kill it.
Going away. I am.
So far, nothing. Still waiting for the recording to start, I believe. I will give a monologue until I hear something, but right now, nothing yet. It's extremely faint.
let's go back to the beginnings of NAFTA and Salinas. You're saying that NAFTA essentially was set up as a methodology for the financial industry, Walmart.
It was designed. Only people were involved, but the design of NAFTA was creatively using cheap goods, creation of jobs. This was the goal of the American people to be able to sell our goods overseas. I mean, all these issues that aren't under development, aren't touching people, but the philosophy was Venus was correcting to his grandiose plan of making Mexico an island state, and that's what he did, and making it a base and a bastion and a bridge into our country for
Now you take Selena.
They were in school together.
Okay, Gordon, we don't have any sound. We heard that they went to school together at Harvard. Kind of went.
What I had here actually is in the process I had, I will say I had interference here. I had a hack attempt on the computer. I'll tell you what I put up, and I'm not going to leave them up that long. I have two recordings with, and we're done with this is a briefing by the FBI, and I've been allowed to have these and to use them in an informal way without identifying, but they're clearly with the FBI. And here's we identified that Carlos Salinas, former president of Mexico, and perhaps one of the most corrupt people in this, and this is bad audio, but you'll be able to pick it up if you go on my YouTube channel. These are the last that are sitting up there. That he was set up a narco, are the people that built NAFTA, the ones responsible. We go into the history of Bain Capital, but how they attempted to created a narco empire that spread across the United States and took political control of much of the United States. In the second video, and we're going to run this one right now, I'm going to do the same thing with the same delays. We're going to discuss Romney and his visits to Cuba, where he met with Russian agents and planning his own plan, the downfall of with the Russians, and we'll do this. I'm moving over to the now. Give me about 20 seconds.
Let's point out here that Romney's girl was the daughter of Yuri Andropov, Cuban woman that he Andropov sorted with, and we've got photographs of her and him together on the tarmac in front of an airplane. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. Romney's compromised. Always had.
Have you read some of the questions I asked?
Oh yes, no, all of this is going down.
I want that, and you want to ask it. Who is the person? Who is Maria that you met with? Or let's say this. Let me give you the name. Who is Maria Perez? Perez.
Okay.
Or Maria Perez.
Now, where did Where did he meet Jane Maria Perez? Inside Cuba or elsewhere, like in?
Hold on, let me give you an answer. No problem.
All right.
Jane Maria Perez or Jane Mary Swift. That's W-I-F-T. And Dropola, A-N-D-R-O-P. Whatever you get. Born Emma Thomas, A-N-A-T-O-L-O-V. Who is this woman? What do you speak with her? What's your connection with her? We want to ask questions. Ask this person this question. It's not reporting. I'm asking you. I'm asking you to fill out the picture of the person.
Now, we've got the one photo of Romney and Maria in Cuba. Are there any other photos taken in Cuba?
There's photos and there's recording. But for now, we don't want to deal with these people getting the Netanyahu.
Okay, I'm jumping back in here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Gordon, you're coming in loud and clear. You sound great. So why don't you give us the backstory as to what we just heard there?
Okay, this was me, and this is with the head of FBI counterintelligence. That's his voice on the phone, and you will hear. And I have put up 6 hours of meetings we had, which were recorded prior to the 2012 election, because the FBI did not want a Russian agent in the White House now. But we heard FBI counterintelligence say, I said, are there photographs? There are recordings. And the recordings include money laundering, weapons smuggling, how Bain Capital ran thousands of accounts to pay off members of Congress. We named the American banks and companies on here. And the FBI names. And these are, when you were hearing the names being read out, they are being read out of an FBI file. You will never in your life get that close to an actual counterintelligence briefing. This is the only time one has ever been played anywhere. Is that a good guess?
That's a good guess.
Yeah.
The FBI is pretty territorial about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. This is the only time you will ever hear any of these things. And what you have heard there is, this is all of the information we want to put out now. We don't want to hand an end-to-end story. This is for the people. We want to give people enough to be able to follow on their own, because the idea is that journalists were going to pick up on this. Now, what we did do is we did enough to come out of the election, and we had enough material to frankly force Romney to withdraw from the 2006 election. And the same information is coming out right now on Jeb Bush, tying Jeb Bush. 9/11 is a minor thing because that's been oversold, but we can tie him to massive cocaine deals and to huge tax fraud deals. We have that, things that he could realistically be arrested for. So Jeb Bush, we're looking for Jeb Bush to withdraw here. And it's being done because we have within the FBI and other organizations, Army intelligence, we're getting the files pouring in here now. And we're sitting through these meetings. This is what doesn't go on anywhere else. And this is why I talk to Israeli intelligence, why I don't piss on everybody at the Pentagon, why I don't continually trash the FBI, and why I don't continually trash the United States like so many of those around me love doing, because it's where we live. That we've got so many stupid people here is bothersome. I have to accept that if you're listening, you're partially awake. What I can't, and it's because of just where I come from, I spend I've spent much of the past few years, and then Michael will tell you this, sending Michael to counterintelligence school, where you can read a document and you can learn from the document not what it says, but what it's hiding. What people do not say tells you more than what people say. There is never information given out, unless somebody's got a really, really bad attitude. And frankly, I've got a really, really bad attitude, and professionally so. So we're crossing a lot of lines here. Toward this end, the recordings which are available to you, there are 20 minutes of them, will have enough to expose criminal activity across the U.S. government, you can easily tell what kind of briefing this is. This is law enforcement, counterintelligence people with the U.S. government talking with me. No question at all about this. People trying to save the United States from a criminal conspiracy. Loyal, decent Americans. Person who's on there with me, which I won't even begin to name, is a person of tremendous heroics. An FBI agent. Heroic individual. And we have lots of them out there. We have had people silenced like Mike Dick, who holds all of the information on 9/11. We have people silenced like John O'Neill. And John O'Neill died on 9/11. He was released by the FBI, fired literally, in March 2001. And after
he continued anyway. He continued his investigation regardless of working for the FBI.
What he did is he had Holbrook and Richard Clark had gotten close to him and had tried to move him into the White House, offered him a White House job, which, and this is the flaw of Mr. O'Neill, didn't pay enough. And he took the security job at the World Trade Center. Now, his deal there is he knew the attack was coming, and he attempted to bring people over, investigators, who were setting up a massive surveillance system in the area around the World Trade Center so that they could watch the explosives being planted, which we knew were in white moving vans and were nuclear weapons. And the HD video system, we don't know if it was installed or not, or what happened to the video. But we've certainly made clear enough of the things, the jammers. We have more material as well, which we're still sitting on. And that material, and Michael and I have talked about this, but 9/11 was going to take down the George Washington Bridge, which was bombed on 9/11. The Lincoln and Holland Tunnel, and those truck bombs were seized by NYPD, and thank you guys for doing so. But it wasn't to isolate New York City. It's because, and this is a national secret here, heaven forbid, overtly, the cable hub for New York, for the financial district, supposedly runs through the Lincoln Tunnel. That's what we tell people. This is a national secret. It actually runs through the George Washington Bridge. The cable hub goes along the George Washington Bridge. It was there to be cut. That runs Wall Street. Much of the SWIFT system. Tell people what the SWIFT system.
The SWIFT system is the banking system. It's how banks communicate, how they transfer money, how they deal with one another via a secure system. Every bank has its own SWIFT code, and so they know when they're talking to each other. If the SWIFT code handshakes and all, they know it's a legitimate bank.
Now, there's a key city here called Fort Lee, New Jersey. Fort Lee is the center of the Russian mob in the U.S. A group called Gensa.
No, stop, Gordon. When you say Russian mob, what we're talking about is Khazarian mafia, who are from Russia. These are not Russians.
Michael's totally correct about this. I call it the Russian mob, and yes, they're almost all Jewish.
we've got to start changing our language if we're going to defeat these people. Because if we call them the Russian mob, it gives a totally different image than what this really is as Khazarian mafia, Ashkenazi Jews who are criminals, who are from Russia.
If you want to learn about it, if you don't take my word for things, and that would be if you thought we were Alex Jones clones, you can always just go into Google and put in arrest organized crime Fort Lee, and you'll get dozens and dozens of names of people with Russian Jewish backgrounds, plus others. But you'll see that. Here's what we're saying about about taking down the George Washington Bridge. The fiber bundle that goes under the bridge is top secret, and we'll tell you why. It loops under the bridge and then goes back under the bridge. As soon as you cross the bridge, there's and the bridge hits the New Jersey shore. There's a palisade there. There was a famous nightclub from the 30s down there. And just as you cross the road, right along I-80, you've got an office building, the first office building right off the freeway, right off the bridge and this is heading toward New Jersey west. It'll be on your right. In the vault there is the FBI and NSA interception facility for all fiber traffic. It's where they intercept and screen all financial transactions done in New York. It's done there in the basement of a building. In the upper floors of the building was a broadcasting company. It used to be called the Ethnic Network. USAID, it was like Radio Free Europe, but USAID and the State Department ran a broadcast company that broadcast to both the Ukrainian and in Russian, and it was located up there. In the floors below that facility, which was operating at the time, were the Able Danger offices, where Mike Dick watched Mohammed Atta and the Israeli teams that were responsible for the attack on 9/11, and worked in conjunction with the organization which was headed by FBI Supervising Special Agent John O'Neill. And taking down the bridge was meant to take down those cables. Now, the rationale in doing so, first of all, 9/11 made, how many billions were made in insurance claims, phony insurance claims on...
Larry Silverfish got what 6-7 billion out of that, out of a building that was slated for asbestos remediation that was going to cost him $3 billion to remediate. Yeah, he turned that one pretty well.
Taking down these cables would have dropped the banking and financial system of the United States for up to 90 days, between 60 and 90 days to go back online. The bond markets, the stock markets, the SWIFT system, the American SWIFT system would have been down for 60 days. So what could you do with advanced knowledge of that?
Oh, Gordon, you would have made a fortune, and you would have been able to implement martial law from coast to coast with nothing. There would have been chaos in the streets. There would have been riots everywhere. It would have been absolute madness. Your debit cards wouldn't work. Gas stations wouldn't pump. Grocery stores wouldn't sell food. Name it. It was going to happen. That's what that was actually targeted at.
And Michael's exactly right. This is what was planned for 9/11. What we have found in we'll say papers released by an intelligence organization is that 9/11 had nothing to do with putting Bush in power. 9/11 was planned by the individuals we can all recognize, including de Klerk, Netanyahu, Bronfman, Giuliani, this group. But it was to put Al Gore in the presidency. Michael explained why they wanted Al Gore as president.
To have a patsy, to have a fall guy, to have a guy who was responsible. They wanted to destroy Al Gore. They wanted to destroy the Democrat Party.
And when Al Gore went down, who would be president?
I don't remember who was running.
Joe
against.
Lieberman. Joe Lieberman.
Joe Lieberman. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, what the idea, if anything, now they were prepared to work with Bush, and he was pliable enough because he's a weakling and frankly has.
Okay, folks, welcome back. This is Mike Harris on Veterans Today Radio. Today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2015. My guest today, senior editor of veteranstoday.com, Gordon Duff. Gordon, welcome back, sir.
So why don't we do a couple of spots here since we don't have like regular sponsors. Let's talk about Brighton College.
Let's talk about it.
Well, we'll start out. Veterans Today has a partnership with Brighton College. And Michael, explain the history of Brighton College.
Well, Brighton College started out about 20 years ago as a correspondence school. And they've evolved into being a DETC accredited institution of higher learning that is the online model now. And it's not one of the fly-by-night types like you get with University of Phoenix or other, but it's a place you go if you want to. You're in a remote location. If your time doesn't permit you to go to a regular brick-and-mortar school, this is a school where you go to get a real education, where you're actually it's going to be strenuous. You're going to come out of there with knowledge you didn't have. You're going to have to think. You're going to have to connect dots. That college is. And go ahead.
Here's a rationale for doing that. To some extent, that we're pretty careful about it. We're really, really careful of what we get behind, because the people we represent are veterans, military families, military spouses in particular, and serving military are a large percentage of our audience here. And our experience with Brighton, we have several people on VT staff. We're loaded with professors. Often the best ones. Sometimes, if you've been fired for, come to VT, but. And the rest of everyone here's got jail time, or has been locked in a government psychiatric facility, or taped in a basement in a chair that's been beaten by phone books, or like Lee Wante goes much further than that. Cal, we've still got he's missing somewhere. Roy Tov is missing, presumed dead. Hey, we're a tough neighborhood here.
Right. About 2 years before he disappeared. People, how many writers since the online publication started?
It's about 16 now. We tend to hang out in the bad neighborhoods. We do have old people here. So, people like Dan Overmeyer, Ambassador Overmeyer, my mentor and good friend, at 86. So that was, sort of expected, although never really expected. But quite a veterans advocate. Came from Vietnam at 9th Marine Amphibious Brigade. That would be Bill Eckert, died while talking on the phone with me. And this is Eckert underneath the car, his son's car, working in the car, dies of a heart attack. And this is a double amputee, by the way, on a little scooter thing, working on a car transmission. It's a tough guy here, and longtime good friend. Went through a lot in Vietnam together, including him losing in excess. He shot in the head once, and then about 3 months later, losing both of his legs from along with, but killed by the same movie trap. I mean, lost a good number of people and had to save others through extraction. Anyway, back to the Brighton thing, and we're going to be offering for VT readers, listeners, there will be tuition deals. The reason for Brighton, and these are the things that, and I write about this, we've worked with other schools. Our people have taught at other schools, and a lot of them are frankly just no good. It's important that in the areas here of law enforcement, paralegal, business education, that are very job-oriented, that people develop core competencies, and online classes have to, first of all, that goes is paying somebody, getting class credit. You have to develop core competencies that are going to the necessary skills to get the job that next year $10 an hour. We still want people working for $30 and $40 an hour jobs.
Well, yeah, it's one of these situations like a lot of the brick and mortar schools have gone in this direction of the uber liberal arts approach, where you're going to study in, gender studies, or you're going to study Black history, or you're going to study other things.
Oh, again, I've got a daughter who.
You may go get your degree there, but you're still going to be a waiter.
Yeah. My daughter's working in a Walgreens with her degree in I think gender studies and Swedish from the University of Michigan.
This is a school where you're going to learn real world skills that'll make you employable to someone, and that's why this has been embraced.
And toward that end, we will be developing programs built around veterans, military families, the VT people here, which are mostly that, where we can freely ascribe the fact that this will be quality education. It's going to be hard. There's going to be considerable individual attention. It's going to be for dollars spent, and this is what's critical, that it's going to give the highest probability of success and successful career advancement for people. And we have an awful lot of people here at VT at risk, and we're doing the best we can on this one. And we've found an organization where, and close to our heart, we're going to have a criminal law, criminal justice programs, an armor and gunsmith program, and of course medical billing, nursing programs, and along with my wife teaches history there. So there's we'll have things available, but we will be cutting a deal for the guys here at VT, and it's like like we've done with our do a custom weapons plug. We've just finished a new line of and one thing I like about Brighton is they've also got a gunsmithing school. But we've come out with our first 18-inch, these are semi-automatic sniper system, SASS, fluted heavy barrel. And these are Matrix Aerospace upper and lower matched receivers, nickel boron, in 308. We have AR-based, the most reliable and most devastating 308s that will be priced at half of market. We've got barrels from 24 inches down to 16. We've got some heavy things out here, and we have some 7+ pound, but under 8. What look to be M4 carbines, and they're in 308, and these are pounders. But we're putting out a full line of weapons, 4 readers, all carefully selected, all tested, and all backed, by the way. And we do have stuff come back, and we do fix that. It's something we do, and it's. I will tell you one of the experiences I've had, and it's that we're not really a business by any means because we don't make any money, but
now we're good at that, aren't we?
Yeah, we're real good at not making money. Yeah,
we're real good at not making money. We've got that one nailed.
What I have found is that we have hundreds of weapons out there now, and it's just absolute. We put some things in people's hands that whoever comes to knock on your door, whatever they have will be a joke compared to what we give you. We'll just say that. But we found that the customers we've had over the past couple of years are absolutely tremendous people. We've had people buy a dozen weapons. Developed some good friendships, but we've had great people. And I have to say that, dealing with consumers, and we never wanted to do this, but people wanted to buy the stuff we make, and so we now run a full custom shop and gunsmithing shop. And nobody ever wanted to do this. It's a hobby thing for Mike Chester. And we're, by the way, in FFL, this is all done, it's all done legally. But customers, I found that you guys out there that we've worked with have been tremendous.
All right, Gordon. Well, that's enough for the commercial stuff for right now. But since we don't have real commercials yet, we're going to get them. I might as well give a plug for conflictualrx.biz, because if you're out there prepping, if you want to store things, make sure you have your meds that you need. And that's who I refer people to, is conflictualrx.biz or .net. Either one, they both work. They're interchangeable. But Gordon, what's the state of the union here? I mean, how close are we to breaking out into open conflict between the bad guys and the good guys, the people who love this country and the people who want to destroy it? I don't think we have much more ways to give to the bad guys. I think they've been winning for a long time.
I think it's already going. I think we're involved right now in an open insurrection. As soon as Netanyahu showed up in this country, we had people who were involved in an insurrection. And if you don't like to have a Negro president, I'm sorry, and if you don't like Nancy Pelosi or whatever, at least she's not a major drug dealer, And as we heard here from the FBI, and if you could hear this quickly, and the FBI says, well, it covers people on both sides of the aisle. It isn't just Republicans. And that's what they said. They said it wasn't just Republicans. They didn't say it's evenly people on both sides of the aisle. They said it wasn't just Republicans. Listen to that. God only knows. Whatever this has been, whatever we know the Republican Party to be, it has absolutely been hijacked. Absolutely. And, within the Democrats, and, guys, there are things I can't talk about right now because, heaven forbid, I work in defense intelligence, so there's stuff we really do, and it's none of your business anyway. But if the GOP were in the White House, Defense Department, I get called all the time for stuff. I get invited to stuff. The Democrats, absolutely, a lot of what Obama would want to have and should have, VT has, or Davis has. We have. We have the intelligence. We have the background. We have the straight line into the Russian government, into the Syrian government, into the Iranian government, into the Pakistani government, into the varying factions in Afghanistan. We have the direct connections there.
Don't forget about West Africa. We've got connections into there. How many hours have we spent on the phone with representatives from different countries discussing their internal issues?
The idea that the U.S. has absolutely nobody in Nigeria. On both sides of the election right now, we're being courted by both coming on the election for them. Both sides are not going in at all because we're being asked by both sides.
It's as one of the next hot zones globally. People, please remember that whenever you hear the term Boko Haram, it's interchangeable with ISIS because the money from both organizations comes from the same people, the same place.
Yesterday, Boko Haram announced that they were officially part of ISIS. You didn't see that?
Hey, no, I didn't see that. I didn't see it, but that was just on my own because they're.
Oh yeah.
The money comes out, and if you don't believe that this Khazarian mafia operates, all you have to do is look at ISIS steals a barrel of oil from Iraq. How do they ship it to the refinery that's overseas? Oh, somebody leases them a very large crude carrier, and they load it up on there and they ship it overseas. Well, it's my contention that anybody who does business with ISIS the guy who owns, or the group that owns that very large crude carrier, is also aiding and abetting terrorism, and therefore should have criminal and civil penalties against them for doing such. The same with the refiner.
Support for terrorism, yeah. And right now that includes 47 members of the United States Senate who are in material support of terrorism. And we have this on a major basis. And as far as African governments, we work with, I can name the ones that we speak to directly, and that would be Sudan, including we're the guys who negotiated the division of Sudan, which I won't say was successful, but was necessary. Nigeria. We have major operations throughout Cameroon, Ghana as well. We have subsidiaries that operate in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We operate in Kenya. We have friends and subsidiaries in South Africa. I don't consider those to be successful, but we certainly have people there. Gene Khrushchev runs our operations there. And Ethiopia and Somalia on the edge. In Egypt, we have considerable political clout in Egypt because we are tied to people we shouldn't admit being tied to, but by financial necessity. Our backers are very powerful within Egypt. And if you want to watch what the Khazarian Mafia has done, and I'll call it cleverness, because it certainly is an intellect, but the idea of creating a failed state out of Libya, it wouldn't have taken much to hold Libya together, but it didn't take a hell of a lot to, and these are the same people who planned. I can tell you who brought down Libya, the people who are running ISIS in Libya, okay? The Jamestown Foundation, PJ Media, Pajama Media is the social media company for ISIS. They run it, literally. And groups within the RAND Corporation. That's ISIS. Those are as Mike would call the Khazarian Mafia. Those are their contracted groups. And as far as running on the ground operations in support of ISIS, making sure that they get their weapons and supplies, is a company called Google Idea Groups, headed by a young gentleman named Jared Cohen, who is an assistant to Condoleezza Rice. And they are the group that runs the weapons across the borders, that helps get the phony passports, I've got an article actually in Neo. Michael, did you see my Neo article?
When did it come out?
Okay, but probably and I didn't know it was published. They sat on them for a week over there. Neo is New Eastern Outlook.
Yeah, that's a Russian publication.
Yeah, it's a journal in Russia. Hell, I'll just, I'll be bad. I'll read something. I'm in line. I'm reading stuff. God help you. You've got me reading my own stuff here. And, stuff seems a lot more fun when you aren't reading it yourself.
Well, go ahead. Just give the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to find. I've gotten pushed back onto the next page here. Oh, there it is, right there. The article is called "ISIS and the Court of Miracles." Explain what the Court of Miracles is. That would be from Tale of Two Cities.
Gordon, I don't recall.
Okay. In Paris, the beggars, one-legged beggars and the blind in Paris, at the end of the day, begging on the streets, would go to the Court of Miracles, and there suddenly the missing leg would unfold, and the patch would come off the eye, and they would suddenly be able to see as though they were miraculously healed. And that's from Tale of Two Cities is Charles Dickens, by the way. A lot of people think it's Victor Hugo. And I've got someone here. We've got lots and lots of Skype stuff going on. Oh, I've got Alex here in Cameroon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Alex is listening. He said, I know Jordan Cohen.
yeah, yeah. Hey, Alex, can you? And Alex is in Cameroon right now. Alex, can you take care of him for us? And I don't mean any bad take care of. I mean make sure that he has lunch, somewhere to sit.
Treat him nice.
You know?
Treat him nice.
Yeah, because we know that deep down, Jared Cohen is a really good guy. And where deep down do you think Jared Cohen might do best by the rest of us? Bottom of Lake Michigan?
At least 6 feet.
Yeah. Anyway, we will read, and hold on, Alex here. And Alex is a regular guest with us, by the way, and a Damas guy. The nature of the Islamic State and its operations represents an enigma. They simply can't exist. We can prove the whole thing is a con. Oh, we can do it easily, and we can do much more, even without descending into questions of mock executions. The myth of ISIS falls apart without getting close to any conspiracy theories, wild or otherwise. Today, the FARS network, and that's an Iranian network, reported from Iraqi sources that an American Apache helicopter was shot down dropping supplies to ISIS forces near the western regions of Anbar province. The photo below depicts that event, and I'm going to hold the microphone up on the screen so you can look at the photo. What's wrong with this picture? I'm going to describe it for you here. There are a few things wrong with this picture. The helicopter shown is a UH-10 from as early as 1957. Thousands are flown around the world. You can buy one on eBay. The photo lacks a date time stamp. It also lacks things like information that could identify the origin and background of who flew it, where it came from, and the most basic forensic common sense. Where's the pilot? What was the cargo? Let's see the whole photo, because the photo we've got is low resolution, meaning it was cropped from something far wider, so we wouldn't recognize where it was taken. And this is one we got from the Iranians. What are people hiding from us? And people are hiding an awful lot. Is this New York City? It could be. What we have is an amazing lack of curiosity here. Last week, FARS, that's the Iranian network, reported 2 British transport planes shot down during supply operations for ISIS. No pilots or wreckage, no tail numbers, no evidence whatsoever exists other than the claim. Are we being told that 2 transport aircraft can crash and everyone within 500 miles won't drive there looking for bags of cash, Rolex watches, and other goodies? And by the way, if you're in Iraq and an American plane crashes, you absolutely assume that it's going to be full of $100 bills. You want to be the first guy on the ground to grab a basket of those things and head to the border as quick as you can. Back to reading. Then again, supposedly hundreds of ISIS vehicles have been destroyed by the U.S. bombing campaign, each with VIN numbers on hundreds of parts. The FBI and Interpol can easily track each vehicle, not only with nearly any part, but there are other ways as well. There are international conventions that govern the sale of black market or stolen vehicles and parts. Each vehicle manufacturer enters a database, and most parts are serial numbered and registered, as well as all sales and transfers recorded and entered for global access. Even with the GPS disabled, and all newer vehicles have electronic ignitions which can be tracked. All put out radio signals unless Faraday shielding is used. A modern vehicle leaks electromagnetic energy like a flashlight in a darkened room. Our satellites can track cars with electronic ignitions. You don't know this? I'm not supposed to tell you that. Forget this, because
somebody came out and did an expose on how they can use their iPad gadget to hack into any GM products and flip them.
Oh, good. Now I don't have to go kill the entire audience. Thank God.
No, you don't. It's all good. It's been on the mainstream.
I was concerned about that. Perhaps Toyota doesn't want to explain how thousands of its trucks shipped to Israel were modified and transported across Jordan. Israel and Netanyahu were above the wall. Now Jordan is claiming the same thing. Is this perhaps why Jordan is now a heroic ally of the right? You remember the statements Jordan made about how they were going to bomb ISIS out of existence after their pilot was executed? Real or not, we have no idea. Well, Jordan isn't bombing anybody anymore. They ran their mouth for a day, and then they ground to a halt Oh, yeah, just those of you that got sucked in. The King of Jordan is the great heroic. Sure, he is. He's been taking backhanders from ISIS and the Israelis forever. Jordan is an Israeli colony. These people are. Jordan's a total police state, and you can't drive 5 miles around.
Those of you who don't know what backhanders are, that means a bribe, kickback.
Yeah, that's my London English coming out here. Okay, let's take a look at some things that nobody knows. I was in Damascus recently, a capital of a war-torn nation, when I had Michael with me. Take care of me. Though Damascus is an hour from Beirut by highway, many things like meat, for instance, aren't that available. I noted the same thing in Iraq at the height of the war. Life was rice, beans, and occasionally frozen chicken, they thawed and cook it somewhat. Unless you were U.S. military, and if so, you're drinking polluted river water sold to the troops by Halliburton at $30 a gallon. What we're saying is simple. Getting supplies in and out of a war zone is nearly possible in a real world anyway. But are we in a real world? Let's go back to the bombing campaign. There are hundreds of trucks that were blown apart across Iraq and Syria. That's the U.S. bombing campaign. The U.S. has access to most of them, as does Iraq and Iran. Does anyone look to see who put the bumper guards on, who welded the plates to support the weapons in the beds? Does anyone test the gasoline to see where it's refined? Because if you're in Mosul, you can't get gasoline. And Alex, by the way, worked in Iraq for our occupying force as spokesman for Paul Bremer at the time. And if whatever was done bad there, Alex probably did it himself. If we can track vehicles, even though we don't, we can also fingerprint each vehicle, find out who built it, who modified it, what tools were used, what welding materials, what parts. And we'll stop reading off this. This is in New Eastern Outlook. If somebody has built a vehicle, if they have mounted anti-aircraft guns, welded suspension on, and this isn't done in an amateurish way, and we know it's being done in Israel, they did not sanitize these vehicles. All of these places where these vehicles have been worked on are fingerprinted, and these fingerprints have DNA, and Israelis are in that database. We can pull them up, and I would like to know the ones who build. I'd like to know where the plants are in Israel, where ISIS's trucks are built. I want to know who refines their gasoline, because one of the first things we did during the air war is we destroyed the oil refineries that were near the areas where ISIS operates. And we've got Alex on here.
Gordon, by the way, have you noticed how the price of gasoline has gone up $1 a gallon the last 30 days?
I'm at 209 here.
We're at $2.99 here on the West Coast, and the excuse they're giving us is because they had a refinery incident. Because oil is still at below $50 a barrel, it's like $46 a barrel, in dropping. But we on the West Coast, we're over we're at three plus a gallon right now because of a refinery incident. Just passing that along to the folks out there.
Refinery. I wonder what a refinery incident is actually.
Some fire, some spill, something they concocted in order to jack the price.
Okay, I'm on Bloomberg right now, and crude is at went down $1.46 a barrel. Is at 48.54, and the wholesale price of gasoline. Now gasoline wholesale is up here and is sitting at, this is blend stock we call it, is at $82.06. So that would support for gasoline about $2 a gallon. And here, it's 60 cents. 60 cents higher. That's and this is we've got.
I have two words for why it's 60 cents higher. Koch brothers. That's just me.
Now we've got Alex in here. In her book, No Higher Honor, Condoleezza Rice writes of Cohen. When he came to the State Department, Steve Krasner, he brought together a terrific staff of young guns to push new ideas. One of his most inspired appointments came in 2006 when he hired 20-something Jared Cohen, who'd been a student at Stanford and had taken a 4-month sojourn on his own in Iran. He would use his position at policy planning to begin to integrate social media into our dynamic toolkit. That would pay off handsomely.
Into our diplomatic toolkit.
Yeah. This would play us handsomely in some years when Twitter and Facebook became accelerants of democratic change. Oh, my God. And, of course, in the process...
An accelerant, if you're talking to the fire marshal, an accelerant is someone who puts gasoline to start the fire to make the house burn down quicker.
In the process, Cohen went to work for Google for a military contracting firm, which includes special operations troops. We're talking death squads run by a 20-something, by the way, who's now a 30-something, who has no real-world experience, but loves ordering the assassination of people. People who, well, don't go along with Condoleezza Rice's ideas. And what kind of people, what do you call someone who would disagree with the core values of Condoleezza Rice, Michael?
You call them an American.
Yeah, pretty much. Or let's say a socially responsible global citizen. And Mr. Cohen now, and this is one of the things that came out in the Stratfor documents that WikiLeaks, heaven forbid, and I don't care for them a lot, but that Jared Cohen was running around the Middle East bragging about having people killed on emails, and he's technically a civilian. He has no protections. And there were concerns that Cohen was going to be whacked because he never earned his spurs, as some of us have. Sometimes people ask, why I'm alive here, and because I'm potentially useful to people. But the other thing is I don't treat other people with other agencies or even, like for instance in Israel, Netanyahu's a total shithead. And but I think he's a shithead. The Mossad thinks he's a shithead. We collectively think he's a shithead. We collectively hate him. If I sit down in the same room with what are smart people, we're going to say exactly the same thing. What do we want? We want to, and it's what it's come down to now. Intelligence agency people, even Israel and otherwise, only worry about their own survival because these idiotic politicians are the people. Israel is being run by Sheldon Adelson. The U.S. is being run by Sheldon Adelson. We don't even know who's running Britain, but their entire government are pedophiles. In the U.S., when Stu talks about these people being Luciferians and belonging to these weird organizations where they dance around with robes and eat barbecued baby legs, he's just not making it up. These people are lunatics. Jesus. And as nice a person as I am, I have dogs and cats, and I have 3 guinea pigs, heaven forbid, and children and grandchildren, and I'm a veteran service officer. I kill all these people. I mean, I do it personally, and I wouldn't miss a lick of sleep. I do it Idi Amin style with a hammer and sleep like a baby. I'd rather see the oxygen going down the carburetor of a Yugo than being used by these monsters that are around us. We are, and if you go into the FBI tape, by the way, which I'm not going to leave up very long by agreement, I'm going to pull that. you will hear them refer to these people within our government and hedge fund managers and a number of key GOP politicians. You hear them referred to as monsters. That's the actual term.
Well, Gordon, how do we purge ourselves of this class of monster? How do we get rid of these guys? There's nobody seems to be taking any action anyway. Obama's got a clear mandate. He can move on 47 senators right now for violation of the Logan Act. How come the DOJ isn't picking them up this afternoon?
You and I can't print their home addresses, phone numbers, and tell people to sacrifice themselves, killing them. I mean, technically, that's probably advocating. Is that against the law? I don't know. People do that all the time now.
Well, no, I would think it's against the law. We're not with the Westside Baptist Church. We can't do that.
Okay, well, we're not going to advocate any of that, and
we're still, for the time being, we are still stuck with due process on our side. The bad guys do not allow due process to get in their way, but we, because we believe in the concept of a nation of laws, allow that to interfere with what we'd like to see justice administered.
Well, the laws in this case, they are laws only enforced against the poor. Be caught with 2 grams of marijuana in the wrong state, you could be doing 3 years, 5 years, or 30, as was the case for many. Get caught selling a shipload of cocaine or tons and tons of heroin, and we can name the people who do, get caught doing that, and it's nothing, absolutely nothing. The U.S. government, these 47 senators, the majority of them, not all, but the majority are receiving a cut from the Mexican cartels and a cut from the Afghan heroin motherlode. They are getting a cut. They are all millionaires. Some of them have earned it, of course, by stealing and cheating and all of the way everyone else makes money.
The hard way, but by lying, cheating, and stealing.
Yeah.
Other ones make it the easy way by getting paid off by the drug cartels. That's great.
Yeah, and those are the 2 choices. And if you don't know that's true, there is no way in the U.S. to make anything. If you try anything without giving your share to organized crime, you will find the boot on your neck quickly. So anyone anymore that has anything didn't earn it. Not by the standards that the Horatio Alger standards. And the U.S. has been that way for an awful long time.
It has. I mean, this has been a systematic destruction of the entrepreneurial class, which really I see started under Reagan, whenever he deregulated everything under the pretext of opening it up for competition, why things were deregulated. Well, deregulation, in my opinion, allowed for consolidation, and so now we have, 4 to 6 businesses in every, all the little guys out. I mean, one of the examples I love to give is for airlines. One of the examples I love to give is for airlines, where we used to have 55 national carriers, and now we're down to 5 or 6. And it's
just try to fly from one place of this country to another. Oh, it's like 2 years ago we had a meeting in New Orleans, and if you remember that,
I was there.
I had a 3 airport flight. How many did it take you?
2.
Well, I can go from Detroit to Frankfurt faster than I can get to New Orleans. That, and I was in, is it Raleigh, North Carolina? That's the one with the speedway or whatever. I had really never spent any time in North Carolina, and I'm just in an airport, and I'm in airports. I've been in a lot of airports. I'd say it's just one of those things that happens to you. I had never been anywhere where I thought I'd been sucked into a black hole. I was in an airport that had 5 barbecue restaurants in it. You get lots of, but we had bathroom attendants who handed out towels, but none of the toilets worked. that kind of stuff. I mean, some of them had actually been smashed with a sledgehammer, and yet you've got a bathroom attendant.
Well, Gordon,
I had never.
let's talk about some things here because, this country has suffered from a number of ill-gotten policy. I can't say mismanagement, but malmanagement, just bad policy inflicted upon this country, starting with the murder of Kennedy. I mean, you look at the Immigration Reform Act of '65, and from there on, it's been an acceleration of bad policies. The free trade agreements, 57,000 factories went overseas. 36 million jobs were lost. No wonder there's no recovery. There's no work here. And so the question is, how do we look at these policies of the past 50, 60 years and reverse these policies to make it something productive for the American worker? Because this is, clearly a war between capital and labor, and it's and the capital is all owned by the Khazarian mafia, plain and simple.
Well, we're going to have to come down to this, and heaven forbid, I'm one of those people that has some of that money here, actually, as it is. But
well, the thing is, you're not going to keep it long because once the economy collapses, and if the Dow takes a dump, you're going to be looking at probably 20 cents on the dollar of what you have today, and you're not going to like that.
Well, that's still more than I can spend. I've survived a couple of these things, mostly because I'm the guy that watches this stuff. And the other one is that as an American, hey, I still work for a living. I still own the job. And I'm still, retirement age. I mean, I'm on Social Security. I'm still working. It's what we do. The issue about Americans, these ideas that are no longer functional. First of all, that anybody that thinks people who are successful earned it. I'm a doctor. I have friends who are lawyers who work their tails off and earn everything they make. Bob Walsh, Bess Williams, others, they're just great people. I don't know very many good doctors. There's some really horrible ones. Nurses are horribly underpaid. Teachers, for instance, I may like teachers, but if you're so stupid you don't know you're lying to students, that's an issue. You're lying. It's all not every engineering. We could actually probably technically challenge, by the way, even gravity if we wanted to get down to nitpicking in physics. But if you're teaching social studies or history or anything related to humanities, and you're teaching the mythological version, and you are American universities. I'm a university professor. Oh, it's like telling you you've got herpes, and on the first date. Well, I didn't want to tell you this, before we got back to my place, but I'm a university professor. Can you let me out of the car, please?
Well, you're not far from the truth there, and part of that, I mean, like I said, this all goes back to the Frankfurt School, came here in 1933, and they have destroyed academia in this country, and they've destroyed it from the kindergarten level through postgraduate level, and they've changed all the science, if you will. The science of anthropology is one that jumps off the page. This guy Franz Boas came out and rewrote thousands of years of knowledge just because he felt like it. And the pseudosciences, sociology, psychology, those are all new, and they've been used very destructively against our nation. And I don't really care about the government so much, but I care about the nation. I care about the people. I care about the culture.
Here's a classic one. This was day before yesterday. Secretary of State Kerry was in Saudi Arabia kissing ass, basically. That's his job there. And a reporter from the American Free Press who got the microphone asked him, well, the Saudis just paid $200,000 to a Muslim scholar in India that studies 9/11, who's concluded that 9/11 was an inside job. A guy named Nyack, by the way. And And Kerry just dances around that childishly, and then the moderator gets up and changes the subject immediately. Well, we just forgot the question, you know. It's like the thing that, oh God, what is the White House correspondent long since dead? And Helen Thomas. Helen Thomas used to come up with the same question over and over. Name a, Mr. President, name a Middle Eastern country that lies about having nuclear weapons. It ain't Iran. It's Israel. But anyway, I went to YouTube and I pulled up Nyack talking. And not only does he sound like, I don't know, he's got a cartoonish accent, which is
he sounds like Apu from the Quickie Mart on The Simpsons.
Yeah, he does that. But what he was saying about his ideas about 9/11, God only knows he must have gone to, InfoWars or something. But he's probably informed and not discerning. And now, not everybody in the Middle East or India or Pakistan, Syria, across Africa is stupid. Now, I meet with security officials. It's my job. Michael has sat through these meetings. Jeff Gates has sat through these meetings, which he found quite upsetting, by the way. Jeff Gates has reappeared. He isn't dead. We suspected he might be. You guys don't know what he is. He's got a great book out there. Put a plug in for Jeff's book.
Jeff's book is called Guilt by Association, and it highly recommended. If you have friends, if you have relatives who don't believe what you're saying, get them to read this book. It's 270, 280 pages. It's on Amazon. It is an excellent read, and it documents this Khazarian mafia within the U.S. and the infiltration of the government, the corruption of LBJ, all of these things. It's really about an 80-year look, maybe a little longer, a 90-year look at this history. But Jeff Gates does a good job. It's focused on the U.S. and how the U.S. was compromised by this organized crime.
Well, Jeff took a 5-year vacation from, which is fine to do that, from activism, and has jumped back in and found that the world's left him behind. And things do change to this extent. The point we're making here about our Indian friend that Kerry is so worried about 9/11 being an inside job, like we all don't know it. Kerry sure as hell knows it. We know Kerry knows it. We know Kerry knows everything they know, and that's why he kept his mouth shut. And if he's quitting, and we hear that Kerry is planning on quitting, it would be nice to hear him open his mouth here. He's not a bad guy. I just like to see him take a stand while there's a chance to save this country, because I can't sit here and do this as whoever the hell I am, because people want to hear. If I were the bubble-headed blonde on CNN, and everything I'd ever done was having unnatural acts with a half dozen basketball players, on the net, that would give me credibility. If Kim Kardashian said any of this, people would be listening to it. And why? And it's not that it's how people are now. Photo Play magazine was around for long. People followed celebrities. My God, it's gone on forever. Shakespeare talks about the same stuff. I mean, all of the human condition things we're dealing with now are in the great tragedies. People were dumb for an awful long time. It isn't a new thing.
Well, Gordon, here's what people forget. And, this is a tough thing when you work with kids, because half the population is below average. And we know what average is. And half the population is below that. And so that's what makes this tough. And yet our Republican form of government here gives everybody the same vote, no matter what your IQ is. It's just it's the cards we dealt. We got to play them the best we can.
Well, this is I'll get you in trouble here. But one of the things I have to deal with, I deal with developmental nations. I have for a long time, and one of the things I've had to push are vaccinations, and polio, DPT, measles in particular, but others as well. And I have dealt with the fallout from 2 batches of bad vaccines during my career. One that killed 300 people, produced in India, and the people responsible were not dealt with as they should have been. But I do know that the things that people like Vaccine Liberation Army and they're always people with, let's say, just enough college education to be genuinely stupid. And there's nothing dumber than a college-educated American. I mean, yeah, there is. A college-educated Frenchman is always dumber. Okay, there's nothing dumber than that. Americans are, yeah, it's just, you don't even want to talk to people in France. You know, and heaven forbid, young and college-educated. Now, regular working folks in France are an absolute joy. Love the French people. Like living in France, great place. Do not sit and talk to a liberal, communist, college-educated person unless you've got a 5-pound ball-peen hammer somewhere, because you'll absolutely want to kill them because they are just so stupid. But anyway, vaccines. All of the stuff about vaccines, and I've just been getting emails from Orly Tates, the birth certificate Obama person, and oh my God, and is that a piece of work? This is she's almost illiterate. Emails are like they're written by a 2-year-old. But you're stupid. You're stupid, 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 stupid. You just don't know nothing. Okay. We don't know nothing.
Okay, I see you later. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Anyway.
What do you make of these unemployment numbers? You know, there's an article in Russia today that says 33% of the Americans are out of the workforce. It's the highest rate since 1978.
I can tell you we have here. I'm in Rustbelt Town, Toledo, Ohio. Okay. And our job market here, here's the world I grew up in. I grew up in Detroit. Okay. Let's say it's 1965. All right. And you just dropped out of high school, you know, like people did in 1965, and you show up down at the auto plant and you get a job for $2.55 an hour, and with overtime you're going to take home $108 a week. All right, that'll allow you to buy a 2-bedroom home the size of one of my bathrooms, or part of my garage, and you'll be able to buy a car that, with a V8 engine and gasoline, and take a fishing trip with a rowboat with a little motor on the back. And you'll never worry about sending kids to school. You're not going to be flying to Europe. You're going to be eating the hamburger steak as much as you want. Stop it. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Gordon, we're out of time already.
Hey, don't we own the network?
We do. We can keep going if you want. We own the network.
What the hell? Let's just keep going. What are they going to do?
What are they going to do? Kick us off? Okay. On we go. Well, folks, stick around. VTRadio.com. We are VeteransTodayRadio.com. We are here. We're waiting on you.
When you own the network, they can't cut you off. You know.
Well, that's true. But I heard break music, and I'm just I am Pavlovian conditioned. When I hear break music, it's time to go.
Yeah, I don't need no break music, but
you give me a break when they hired you. Yeah,
we look at this circumstance here, and then we look at, let's take the height of your career. You're living in a 600-acre ranch with a 12,000 square foot home. You've got a pickup truck that costs $80,000. The least horsepower I have in a car is 330. The lowest sticker price I had on 3 cars is $55,000. 2 of them at over 100. I own 4 homes. Vacationing. I spent nearly 10 years after retiring the first time, before the stock market crashed, just trying to spend money faster than I was making it, which was hard to do. But to the extent I never came home, we would just travel continually, but that kind of expectation, I grew up where as much as I ever looked to would be owning a 1,200 square foot home in Hooverville, Detroit suburb, having a supervisory job in a factory of some kind, getting every other weekend off, and a 2-week fishing trip in Canada somewhere. And that would have been everything I would have looked to. And now,
I tell you, I can tell you a similar story. I remember when I got out of undergrad, thinking, God, if I could just get a job where I could make $30,000 a year, I would be living in the tall cotton. And I ended up doing substantially better than that at the apex of my career. Now I'm doing substantially worse. We have been asset stripped. We have been undermined. My industry does not exist in this country anymore. We haven't built a new wafer fab in the USA in close to 20 years. So anyway.
Well, and I was other than working in retail and whatever, my first job was with Bell Labs, and heaven only knows, the money wasn't great, but it would have led to a lifestyle that I've exceeded 100 times over, because I learned how to steal, or the equivalent thereof. Oh yeah, learned how to handle money. We are in the process right now of a set of transactions here that in stock, and this is Michael and I, that will make a couple of $1 billion on paper. Okay, and we're in the middle of this. And you can't make $10,000, but I can make $1 billion, and I can make it trading on the London and Frankfurt exchange off defense contracts with Iraq and Pakistan and Kazakhstan for surveillance and police training, and of course that'll extrapolate out to millions and millions of shares of stock that that we own, and God only knows what else, to huge amounts of money. And in the process, we've lost sight. And you see that world where Mitt Romney, and what comes out that he's admits to having $67 billion, and then you learn there's another 100, 200 billion floating around out there in drug payoffs, and that's why they do offshore banking. And yet, I've got without getting things too close to home, let's say I know people, that'll save that will never have the money to buy a home, to buy a new car, will not be able to, they can't see where they'll do this. And the way you look at life, the way you look at opportunity, when you don't have that ability, you aren't going to be able to do that. Where you can look in the newspaper and look at these chiseling jobs working for employment agencies or selling God only knows what that doesn't exist, and they're all scams, and that's all that's out there unless you can go to, this is why we're talking the Brighton College stuff. It's all we can do to get you out of here and get you somewhere a leg above reading the want ads. And this is, for vets, military families, or listeners, or whatever, to get you somewhere where you have a marketable core competency, expertise that will put you into, if I'm putting you into medicine, which is going to be like, as quickly as possible, feed a family, buy a car, and get a house. Understanding the realities. Or I could tell all of you how to be day traders, which might be better, but I don't think you've got the, even I don't like doing that, but I do a little bit. Mike and I know how. But we've created a world where we talk about, as Michael brought this up, we talk about the job situation now. Right here, our unemployment on paper is down to about 5.3. We know it's higher than this. Now, what is gainful employment? If you're working at Home Depot, are you gainfully employed? I personally say no. If you're not making $25 an hour, I don't think you're gainfully employed unless you're under 16 years old. And now, whatever you think you know out there, I know what a gallon of gas costs, I know what a car costs, I know what car insurance costs, I know what it costs to keep a house glued together. I don't even want to tell you the
bills that cost. Utilities, fees of every imaginable kind, the insane taxes. Whatever money you have, our society has put a drain in here to suck it out of you like you can't imagine. Money, because whatever you work and earn, it will be taken away from you, whether it's a speeding ticket or a driver's license fee or some kind of thing, it's going to be sucked out of you. And the problem being, if you aren't able to make $60,000 a year, and it used to be just one person, but the expectation, we lived in neighborhoods where I grew up in a 750 square foot house. We drove cars that cost $2,500 new. Car insurance was $60 a year. License plates cost $3. And they gave you a new one every year in a little plastic tab. Now, I shoveled the snow. We burned our trash in the backyard. Nobody came and mowed the lawn. I mowed the lawn. At 16 years old, that's
the same gig that I had. From the time I was like 11, 12 years old, my dad didn't touch the lawn. I mowed the lawn. If I didn't do a good job, I paid for it. One way or another. My father was a disciplinarian, like I imagine yours was too.
Oh yeah, that was that. It was the generation. We're the kids of the people that lived through the Depression, and they passed on the school of hard knocks to us, usually through hard knocks, which as the case may have been. But now we have a generation of people who hate themselves if they aren't living like they see people on Instagram TV with Seinfeld. He lived in a shit little apartment. Thank God. And I loved Seinfeld for that reality. The way people live, I watch British TV shows a lot. And every time you go into a British home on a mystery, and it's a mystery show where the vicar's just killed 3 people in town. You gotta watch out you're in Britain, watch out for the vicar that kill everybody. But you walk into a town, I see this Italian kitchen, this always a huge stainless steel range hood. I see hand-finished beech or cherry cabinets, and I see granite countertops and 3 sinks and a big island.
No live anywhere, huh?
No linoleum anywhere. The room right next to me here, I'm in my own servant's quarters. There's white linoleum that's been on the floor since 1982. And I'm looking at it right here through the door, where the servants' areas, the walls haven't been painted since 1980. Still got the white paint on it. But the way people in the real world live, and real people, this is how you know things aren't doing well when you look along the side of the highway and there are late model cars with a donut on the front with a sign on them, please don't tow, because somebody couldn't maintain their car, couldn't put the spark plugs in that you need only every 100,000 miles now. Never got their oil changed, didn't fix their brakes, ran their tires all the way through because they couldn't afford a brake job, or when their plastic transmission went, they couldn't afford the $2,000 for a $600 transmission, which, by the way, is another racket. This is what people look at. Every so often here, there's something comes up where I have a bill that it's $1,500 or $2,000, and Carol and I remember growing up in the world where that was an awful lot of money. We can just simply drop the money out of account and not think anything about it, but it still affects me as though I were earning that at $200 a week, and that's 10 weeks of work. And there are still lots and lots of people, some of them listening to me right now, that take home less than $200 a week, working 35 to 45 hours. Some who make 100 more than that, but not more than that. And that's what Michael is talking about with employment. Is it officially employment, since we don't have the value added from productivity, since the United States is not an exporting nation, since all of our corporations went overseas, they not only don't pay taxes, they don't employ people here, They take the technologies, the developments in manufacturing and technology overseas. We're not sending cars overseas. We do send our kids overseas to get killed, and we do drop bombs on people. That's as close as we come, is dropping bombs on people to exporting anything. We export munitions. We do that. Cluster bombs, cruise missiles. We export those. That's all we export. But all of this builds an economy where there is no potential for a worker to gain through union negotiations and paid health insurance and a share in the productivity of a company that they are loyal to and help develop, a company that manufactures in the U.S. You want to look at a typical thing, Michael, Whirlpool Corporation. Benton Harbor, Michigan, all the plants were in Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. Belding, Michigan, where you'd have freezers, Greenville Product Company, air conditioning, KitchenAid, Hobart, all of the Whirlpool Group, Kenmore, all of those brand names, Amana, which theoretically existed at some time, the GE plants, they're all in Mexico. Not all, most of them are.
They're in Mexico or China. That's why I state openly here that it's time to change. Oh, hang on.
Is that you barking?
Okay.
Well,
barking.
I'm looking here.
But anyway, my point is that it's time to reinstate a 45% tariff on anything imported into the country that's not manufactured by American labor, and that'll force these companies to relocate their facilities here if they want to sell stuff to American people.
But because of this, for instance, now when I look into the room next to me here, there's this is a classic. I can do this. There's my nickel tour. We're on television. I got the microphone up here, so watch your computer screen. There's a Whirlpool freezer here. My wife got in 1972 on ADAC when she was married to a Navy doctor then. It's still here working in 1972, and it's still sitting there. Next to that is across from the sink is a Samsung washing machine that cost $1,000. And a top loader, by the way. Front loading things scare the hell out of me since I had a GE that actually exploded.
Flooded the house where you did it?
Oh yeah, it was just I have a Bosch dishwasher that did the same thing, by the way. So I mean, I had that coming. And some of these things are made in the U.S. I mean, a Honda Accord is actually sort of kind of manufactured in the U.S. Some of the foreign parts are snapped together, in the assembly line. But that Samsung, using all of the technologies, everything in there somehow can be tracked back to the United States. Nobody develops anything. All core technologies, all core patents are American. Everything industrial, all durable goods, as we would call them, are American. But the American companies, in order to survive, and let's take the North American Appliance Division of Whirlpool Corporation, Whirlpool decided that it can't use Tecumseh compressors anymore because they don't break. And so that was a factory in Tecumseh, Michigan, about 45 miles from me that made wonderful things. And instead, when you have a dishwasher or whatever, the refrigerator with a compressor, it's going to have a plastic compressor. Now, if you're in the middle of nowhere...
I like things that don't break. That pleases me when things don't break. I don't want to buy it twice.
Well, but Whirlpool, if you sat in a meeting with their product people, they had decided, because this was the business school model that they learned, that interaction with service employees is a profit center for Whirlpool Corporation, and the only way to guarantee that you had interaction with employees is by building equipment that would break in a timely fashion, where service contracts could be sold, which were a profit center. So you don't make money selling quality appliances. You make money servicing junk and hustling people into buying worthless paper is what you do. Same as Amway Corporation. Amway used to sell soap. They sold different soap. Now they sell training programs, and they manufacture toothpaste for people. And that's the Amway, of course, is Blackwater, by the way, if you want to know their other job. And that's, Dick DeVos, and it used to be Dick DeVos Sr. and Jay Van Andel in 1956, two guys who decided they could make soap in their garage. And what they've created is a bizarre Scientology-like cult. I lived 2 miles from the Amway factory for 15 years and never had anyone ever offer to sell me an Amway product. And I had an oil stain on my driveway, and Amway makes the absolute best driveway cleaner in the whole world. Mercedes all leak, by the way. And no one ever came by to sell me anything. Nobody sells it. I wonder how they live somehow, but it's all, everything has to be a hustle. And so once we've sent all of our manufacturing capabilities out of the country, and we don't even flip each other's burgers because, well, McDonald's is, their sales are plummeting. Americans, if you're going to get a burger, Five Guys makes a much better burger. Or you can sit down and, Chili's has got a new $7.99.
If you're in the Midwest, go to Steak and Shake. Or if you're on the West Coast, go to In-N-Out Burger.
Steak and Shake inundates me with coupons. I never go there. And then there's
that was my first job ever, was at a Steak and Shake. I mean to tell you. It was a good learning experience. I was 14, lied about my age to get it. But, dishwasher, worked up to night grill, worked day fountain. It was a great experience for me as a young man. I think very fondly of them.
And I worked in a union supermarket, making $1.45 an hour, which was
anyway, what you just identified here is the fact that organized crime, which runs our government, which has inundated our culture, cannot generate a economy. It takes productive people. It takes producers. It takes people who farm. It takes people who mine. It takes people who work on a factory floor. It takes people who know how to use a hammer. Who know how to work to create a viable economy.
And we can put it in a world where economies like exports a lot of things to the U.S. with 1 million Bangladeshi and Indonesian slave laborers making less than 35 cents an hour. Now, is it just Emirates? Just Israel? No. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain. I can go country after country, slave labor. And then we have China, slave labor. Kids, 9, 10 years old, working 16 hours a day, breathing and handling carcinogenic benzene to make our TV sets and mobile phones. Everything that says Apple on it was paid for by human blood. But we can't survive when we're dealing with a world where slave labor and human trafficking. It's one thing, it's one thing the women making their money on their back in Sheldon Adelson's casinos, and if you want to call them casino, if it's a room with a bed in it and a woman on a half-soaked mattress, they want to call that a casino. Call it a casino because that money is what bought your Congress. Okay, that's what paid for it. If you go to church here and you think you believe in stuff, and you find yourself politically sided with Mr. Adelson, just know that your real values are coming through.
Gordon, let me interject something here, because I think Mr. Adelson has done a wonderful job marketing to some very noble American virtues and positioning himself to appear as if he is a conservative and appear to support conservative causes when I think he's really anything but. I think he's a criminal.
What Adelson is, and he's a complex guy. We have friends that are friends of Adelson. And is Adelson despises the United States and wants to destroy this country and is spending his money, billions of it, to bribe American politicians to destroy the United States. And he's angry at the United States for some of the same reasons we are. He has, at times in his life, he suffered because he was Jewish in a time when people in the United States did. Most
he's
people...
Khazarian Mafia. Khazarian Mafia. I will not credit him with being Jewish. I'm sorry, that's too good for him.
Explain what a Khazar is.
A Khazar is this group of people that came from the Asia surrounding the Black Sea, is where Khazaria was. They're a mix of Turks, Mongols, and Europeans, and they ran probably the most brutal empire ever in the world. And they were so brutal that they weren't told once; they were told twice to knock it off. The first time was in the 7th century when they were forced to adopt an Abrahamic religion. They adopted Judaism. The second time was about 400 or 500 years later when the Russians and the Persians colluded to destroy them and just beat their empire to smithereens because they could no longer tolerate the level of crime and atrocity and inhumanity against their neighbors that the Khazarians were putting out. And those, my friends, are what we now call Ashkenazi Jews.
And this 500 years ago was the real destruction of the tribes of Israel, as it were, when they were cast asunder and were forced to flee into what we would know: Belarus, Ukraine, Romania,
Russia,
Persia,
Poland, yeah,
Germany, Poland, Hungary. That's why, and what is Netanyahu's real name? Mickey Manischewitz or something, as I remember.
Yeah, it's something like that. I don't remember it is, but it's something along those lines. It's something very. Yeah,
and it's fun, and God only knows. My family comes from not so much Eastern Europe. We were in Prussia, at least I've got, and the others are Scots that paint themselves blue and kill people with rocks, but German Prussians, but at that time. And called this one of the latter migrations, but yeah, the Khazarian Empire was stomped on, and the Khazarians, who were genetically, according to Dr. Aaron Hayek of Johns Hopkins, is that today's Israeli Jews are 95% European Khazarians. But those bloodlines are not by any way pure or identifiable, and they are as mixed a group as any, but if there is an identifiable Jewish bloodline, it is Khazarian or Eastern European for the most part. 5% are Semites, but most are not.
And that's the point, Gordon. 95% of the Jews in the world are Ashkenazi. These are Khazarians. The 5% who are the Sephardics are truly the descendants of the Hebrews. And if you look at Semitic blood, the Palestinians have far more Semitic blood than these Ashkenazis who are claiming the right to Palestine.
And we're going to end the show at the bottom of the hour. We got about 6 minutes left. We're going to have to bring Alex on. We've had a good run today. We've covered a lot of material, which yesterday I would, and you were on for apparently after I was.
I was on for about I was on for half an hour or so with Stu and Preston, but because the show started late.
Well, I get tired of listening to me sometimes. It depends on the right circumstances. You don't feel like talking every day. Doing what you do, running a radio show every day, it seems like it would be, to me, the weight of the world on you.
Well, Gordon, I don't do it for fun. And I'm obviously not doing it for money. I do it because I have somehow I have this ability to get people to talk about stuff and to tell the truth. And I have the ability to ask them the right questions in the right way that really works to destroy the narrative of lies that this organized crime cabal that runs this world that we live in that allows them to get away with their BS. We take apart their lies, and we educate everyone to what the truth is. They can no longer pull their scams.
So, Michael, why don't you and I just have one of these breakdown days and tell everybody to go into their gun cabinet? I've got 5 of them sitting here next to me right now, and pull out your favorite. And for me, it's about my favorite assault rifle would take about a half hour to pick out, but and then a big bag of magazines, and then go out and try to kill whoever the bad guys are. Why is that a wrong idea?
Well, it may not be much longer, but we in this country, we still live under the illusion that we are a country of laws. I'm not a wealthy person. I'm not Dick Cheney. I can't shoot my attorney in the face with a shotgun and walk from it, okay? I will go to jail for that. And so we have a two-tiered system of legal justice in this country, one for poor people, where I come in right now, and one for wealthier people. And if you're the uber wealthy, then you can do anything you want. But it's just kind of how it is. It's a sad day. But while I am still under the constraints of living under the rule of law, we can't go out and kill these people just yet. But I think that day might be coming when the economy collapses.
Well, and toward that end, we will find out where the Army goes, and I engage them. And we have police on here with us, and as you know, what's the world's largest army, Michael?
The American militia, the 150 million Americans who are armed out there.
The largest army in the world are the licensed hunters of Michigan, Indiana, and Wisconsin. Is the largest army on earth.
No, it is. It's true. And I tomorrow, just so you know, I'm going to an Israeli-Palestinian conflict seminar. It's a historical background on current realities. It's tomorrow from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30. I'm going to be hearing a Dr. Robert Harrison speak. Going to be hearing a Dr. Michael Neiman speak. A Yala Zonenschein, executive director of the Havor Shir Hadash Synagogue, speaking. And then I'm going to hear a Dr. Herbert Rothschild speaking. And we're going to watch a film called Occupation. And we're going to talk about Israel's security concerns. The Rabbi Jonathan Seidel, the spiritual leader of the congregation, or Hagan, is going to come speak to us down there. So
with the Netanyahu visit, we saw so many synagogues stand up with the American people. And that's a tradition that, and this is why, heaven forbid, all of the phony white supremacist assholes, may not like me here, because idiocy has got its own sort of life about it. And when push came to shove, more American Jews stood with the United States than American conservatives did. Welcome to that world.
Well, the thing that a point in case here. Let's look at recently in Ukraine when they had the coup and Yanukovych fell and had to flee the country, and we got this guy Poroshenko. When that happened, the front line of this was these neo-Nazis who had come in. And, folks, you got to realize that this neo-Nazi group was no more Nazi than the man in the moon. They're bought and paid for by the Khazarian mafia. It's just how it is. And it's a sad thing. Good luck finding a real National Socialist today.
Well, if we looked at a model to build on, and this is a reassessment. I've spent a lot of time in Germany, and Germans would always, as a defense, you guys took the wrong side in the First World War, and that caused the Second World War. And Germans, at least in the Rhineland area, all my friends are married to French girls or whatever, they never liked the Nazis anyway. Their background were Prussians and Bavarians, and all Germans hate each other anyway. Germany was never intended to be a single country. There are no German people. If you're a Bavarian or a Prussian, or a Swabian or whatever, Bohemian, which you're still. Germany was never a country. It was thrown together the way
Iraq or the way Nigeria was. Pretty much the same thing, or Yugoslavia. Germany, it's the same kind of game there. But Hitler did some things that kids went to school. They didn't suffer from malnutrition. You got a factory owner only made 3 times the wages of a line worker. Worker safety was valued. You were guaranteed a job for life. You had paid vacations at government-owned resorts. You had free health care. You had a full social security system. That was one of the first things Germany had put in, and the Nazis had expanded that. You had a government that supported industry by developing a currency and banking system that supported exports. And Henry Ford, one of his earliest complaints, when he didn't turn to the Rothschilds for money, they tried to shut down the Ford Motor Company. Well, in 1933, Hitler had the same problem when he decided he was not going to turn to the Rothschilds for money, and he found other places, which in the end ended up having Rothschild money behind it. That's who the Bushes were funding for when they lent tens of millions, which then was a lot of money to Hitler. But the Germans made an attempt to go it on their own for their own people. And it would never have turned into, under normal circumstances, the German Nazis were never going to go after the Jews as such. And this is something that I would wish we could have a detailed and honest discussion of all of the good and bad, all of this on all sides of this, and come to an agreement on what the real history is, because what you've been told is totally wrong. What other people are saying, though, on the other hand, isn't necessarily all right either. All we need to value is an honest, truthful history, which in no way resembles what you're taught, whatever it is, and then deal with that and move forward, where the only agenda